I think it's really funny how if you had a person and they were just a capital H hypocrite, where every single thing they did and every behavior they showed went against what their own moral values were, and that person hated hypocrites, it would be both the most and least hypocritical thing they could do at the same time. Like for this hypothetical paragon of hypocrisy, hating hypocrites would be the only behavior they could have that was consistent with their own moral values. You know, I find that a lot of these creative type peoples will sometimes start to feel embarrassed about their own older works after a while. And sometimes they start wanting people to like not look at their older stuff, even if they were really proud of it originally. Makes me think about how the Eiffel Tower was originally only supposed to be around for like 20 years. But here we are over 100 years longer than that, and it's still up. And it's one of the most famous man-made things in the world. Like, do you think the ghost of Gustav Eiffel is just eternally cringing throughout his afterlife that people from all over the world keep coming to see his tower from the 1800s?
Or you think he's just like flexing on all the other ghosts that his temporary installment is still one of the most famous monuments in the world?
So, if somebody with synesthesia could taste colors or see flavors, what happens if they go blind? Like if they lost both eyes as a child, would a spoonful of salt allow them to experience yellow again? Or like if sweet was blue and sour was red, would dipping a chicken nugget in sweet and sour sauce let you experience purple? Yeah, I don't know. Since light and sound are both waves and can be represented by mathematical frequencies, I can kind of imagine low pitch correlated to like red and high pitch correlated to like purple. But crossing these with the other senses that aren't on a spectrum is, I can't imagine it. Like, I can't imagine hearing something and it being mapped to a certain smell, or if that's even how it works. No idea. Oh man, what if someone with synesthesia develops tinnitus? Like when your ears just start ringing, do you also just like smell something? Yeah, I don't know. So, I kind of like dancing, but learning how to dance has been kind of a catch-22 for me. It feels like the more I learn, the less I actually enjoy doing it. Oh, and I'm specifically talking about like two-person partner dances. In a way, I actually preferred the kind of shy, leave room for Jesus, awkward swaying back and forth with your crush kind of dancing. Because at least with that, even if I didn't really know what I was doing, I could really get lost in the moment. You know, just the two of us and a song. And all of those moments have become really fond memories of mine. And I feel like dancers always say that it's a really good form of expression for them. But like, when does that start? Because after I started trying to actually learn proper dance steps and styles, I feel like I'm just trying to follow like the right steps and do the right things at the right time and signal correctly, and it feels like I'm trying to follow a protocol rather than just living the moment. I don't know, maybe other people feel like this too. Dancing's hard. I saw a Leonardo da Vinci exhibit in a museum, and my god, how did Venice not take over the world with this man in their corner? This dude was cooking up transmission gears and multi-shot cannons and siege weapons, and back in the 1400s, like the horse was still the pinnacle of transit. Imagine if he had just been literally more grounded in his inventions instead of focusing on trying to fly. World history would probably be quite a bit different. Why are there only 4 competitive swimming events? Like, there's no way that across the globe, nobody's come up with more than 4 ways to swim. Like, who decided that freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly were the only 4 that we cared about, seeing who was the fastest at? Why don't we compete in, like, breaststroke but upside down? Or like, what if you did the hands and feet for breaststroke at the same time? What would you even call that? Like, jellyfish? Or even doggy paddle. Why isn't there competitive doggy paddle swimming? Why can't that be its own event? For man-made objects, what defines its identity? The intention when it was built? Or how people see it when it's finished? Imagine there's a river, and on one side of the river you start building a pier, and for some reason somebody directly opposite to you on the other side of the river also builds a pier, and they touch in the middle. Is that 2 piers, or is that now a bridge? Or let's say you have a bridge, and half of it breaks off. Is that just a dock now? The Taipei 101 is such a crazy feat of engineering. Like, they really built one of the world's biggest skyscrapers in a seismically active area that's also prone to tropical storms.
That's that's two types of natural disasters. Apparently, there's like a 700-ton steel ball in there acting as a shock absorber, so it's resistant to both earthquakes and typhoons. But like, this thing's a kilometer tall and is taking 3/4 of the Avatar state.
I was rewatching Pixar's Monsters Inc., and the company is very much portrayed to have a monopoly on energy production for the monster world. But it's stated at the start of the movie that part of the reason they have an energy crisis is that human kids are getting kind of desensitized and harder to scare. So I like to imagine that there's rival companies. Maybe there's one called like Monsters Under the Bed Incorporated that focus on being creepy rather than outright scary. I imagine that instead of having scares to create screams to generate energy from, this company's business model focuses on creating anxiety in the kids and generating power from crying. Because it's shown in the movie that when Boo cries, it also creates power. And since anxiety is like a more chronic but lower intensity kind of fear, I imagine they could keep generating power from kids even as they get older. It'd be like a lower output but more sustainable business model for the energy industry.
I saw this thing about how language shapes human perception and how some cultures don't have a specific word for what we would call the color blue in English. Rather, blue is described as a subshade of the color green in their language. And people from those cultures might struggle to distinguish the color blue from green, but they're sometimes better at distinguishing different shades of green along the gradient than native English speakers. And it made me think, are kids who grew up only with the 8 pack of Crayola crayons worse at distinguishing different shades or colors on a gradient than kids who had that like 96 pack of crayons with the sharpener in the back? Like, imagine you're back in school and you're like, hey, Gary, can I borrow your orange crayon? And he's like, oh, no, sorry, man, I lost the orange one. But here, you can use neon carrot or atomic tangerine or macaroni and cheese. What? I said orange.